so comfortable with you. I feel like I'll always love you. I'll always love you. Always.
Baseball's trade deadline is now behind us. So, who won, who lost? We will talk about that. Plus, we will get into a whole lot more from the NFL and WWE as Couch Potato Diary Live starts right now. Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. Peter Klein with you guys today. Thank you so much for hanging out on a Tuesday. As always, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. And as always, we are powered by Swift Energy. Head over to swiftenergy.gg and use the code PKPrimetime for the 25% off. We are streaming live on a few channels today. If you are watching in any of them, let me know how it's looking. On my end, it is looking maybe the tiniest bit delayed. So hopefully everything is going all right. But yeah, let me know how things are looking for you on the live stream today. Coming up, we're going to be looking back at baseball's trade deadline and handing out some winners and losers for the day. Then we start to get ready for the NFL season. As before we look ahead, we have to look back to how things went last year, how the champions built their team, and how we did with our predictions and what we can learn from all of that. A little bit of CFL, and then we'll get into the WWE, as it was obviously a controversial weekend, but one that there was a lot of great performances on as well. So want to highlight those today. We focused on the negative. If you're looking for the Brock Lesnar talk, that was on yesterday's show. Podcast available now wherever you get your podcasts. And also the video is up on YouTube at the moment. But let's begin now with Major League Baseball. The trade deadline is behind us, and a couple of contenders really leveled up. Here are the winners and losers from baseball's trading frenzy. So, Baseball's trade deadline is behind us now, and I think it is a pretty good time to go through and see who won, who lost with the Major League Baseball trade deadline. So let's dive right in. We'll begin with the winners. We'll begin on a positive note. Why not? The Seattle Mariners. Anytime you can come out of a deadline and people are responding to your moves saying, well, now this is the best lineup in baseball, you've had a pretty good trade deadline. They got a steal in Eugenio Suarez, and Josh Naylor is a really dangerous option for them as well. This team looks like a real problem, and we had talked about them being a team that was under pressure to make some moves and to be aggressive at this trade deadline, and aggressive they were with, again, I think it was a steal of a deal, getting Suarez and adding him and Naylor to a lineup that already had Cal Raleigh playing at an MVP level. This is a very, very dangerous baseball team, and they are going to be the proverbial no one wants to play them in the playoffs team coming up here this year. Up next, we have the San Diego Padres. The Padres adding another dominant closer in Mason Miller, along with a pretty good back-of-the-rotation starter in J.P. Sears, and then to add Ramon Laureano to their lineup, as well as Ryan O'Hearn. I think it's just some fantastic, fantastic work by this front office, and I have no idea how they accumulate the prospect pool that they do to be able to go out and make these types of deals. You can debate as to whether or not it has been good for them to keep going like this, but this has been an entertaining era of San Diego Padres baseball, and I think that this is something that a lot of teams and a lot of fan bases wish their front offices would do. Up next, you have the Athletics. We talk about Mason Miller going to the Padres. Well, they got an absolute haul for him. And yes, Miller is a, again, exciting reliever, very, very good pitcher, but you got one of the best pitchers in baseball for him. And so that makes this a team that is set up very, very effectively for the future. So I like that there is a lot that is going well with this team, and it seems like they're actually building towards something here right now. So that's that's another one of the winners. We have the Minnesota Twins. You can certainly debate if you should be selling if you have 10 good players that you can be trading, but they still got a pretty good haul, and I like a lot of the pieces that they brought in. So I think they're set up pretty well for going into next year and getting a few highly ranked prospects. And the last winner that I have is the New York Yankees. It hasn't gone great since the trade deadline, but they really addressed the third base spot with an all-star, and they got some much needed depth on offense, and then at the back end of the bullpen. They continue to screw things up, but this is a really, really strong start to baseball's, a really, really strong deadline for the Yankees. Apologies, going to have to take a brief pause here for a moment as just have a couple things to deal with, but we'll be back in a couple minutes with the losers of the trade deadline and everything else happening in baseball. And I'm back. Sorry about the delay there, everyone. All right, so couple notes in the chat talking about baseball's trade deadline here from Ryan Ballantyne in the YouTube chat. I do think the Jays added some good pieces without messing with chemistry, which is as important as anything down the stretch. Also, for later, I think Triple H and creative messed up the Cena face turn. It should have happened after SummerSlam. Cena loses, apologize, gets his adulation. The Brock music hits. Yes, yeah, I'm talked about the Cena turn yesterday. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. But yeah, that was not necessarily executed to perfection. On the Blue Jays note, I was left wanting a little bit more from Toronto's trade period. They did check boxes that they needed to. The bullpen one, it seems like they did really well. Like, I was hoping for one more kind of bigger name out of that whole process, especially after the Yankees added 4 closers to their roster. But they did that well. If Bieber is even close to what he can be, then that is a steal of a deal for the Jays. And Ty France, it wasn't the right-handed bat I was necessarily hoping for, but in the day before the deadline, the Blue Jays had Leo Jimenez pinch hitting. So better than that. So yeah, I think they did okay. But yeah, like obviously, vibes are immaculate with Toronto, and you didn't want to necessarily mess a lot of that up. So it was a fine line that they were trying to walk with the Blue Jays. That is for sure, and I think they did that pretty well. So those are the teams that did well. What about the teams that didn't? Let's look at the losers now of baseball's trade deadline. And we'll start with the Boston Red Sox, as they get some help with Steven Matz, but they traded a prospect who was basically big league ready, and Matz has been struggling this year for the Cardinals. And when you look at Boston, they make the big Rafael Devers move, and apparently it was addition by subtraction is what everyone was saying, but part of that was to free up some money and to spend that money. And I get teams have to trade with you as well, but to have your big moves be Matz and Dustin May, that's awesome if you're playing MLB The Show 17, but for this year, I don't think this was a very effective deadline for a Boston team that still felt like they were in contention, and still are. Sorry, in the American League East. In the National League East, I have the Mets. I like the pieces that they added, and I guess that's why maybe they shouldn't be in the loser category, because their goal right now is to win the division and compete for a World Series. So they care not about the prospects that they are giving up, but they still gave up a lot to bring in what they brought in. They basically gave up 3 big leaguers, 1 currently and 2 very close, for Tyler Rogers. Again, it makes them better, but it was all just a lot to give up. And banners fly forever. The Dodgers have done this sort of thing where they don't care what they're giving up as long as it's something that fits their need. So we will see. The Dodgers, or the Mets, do have to now put a little bit more into this, because you need to make that a win. And the only way to do that is if you're putting up a banner at the end of the season. The Arizona Diamondbacks were a loser for me. They were kind of reluctant sellers, and it just kind of felt like it. They had a few of the biggest pieces at this deadline, and it didn't feel like they got enough for any of them. And when you look at how all in the Twins went on that direction, and I get the Diamondbacks want to be competitive next year, not too far removed from an appearance in the World Series, but if you're going to do this, then do this and make your big moves with Suarez and Naylor and Kelly and all that. And I just felt like they kind of got 75 cents on the dollar, because they either waited too long or just didn't really want to do it anyway. Whatever it was, Diamondbacks didn't really hit it on this one. Up next, the Tampa Bay Rays. They were another one that just kind of got caught between buying and selling. I understand, we've kind of talked about it on here before, and I've talked about it in other spots, just wanting to win the deadline, or wanting to win the trade, and whether that means it's a rebuilding one or not, whatever. But I do think that you have to kind of pick a direction when you're a team like Tampa Bay, and it just felt like they were, well, let's go out and add a big reliever. Well, let's trade this guy to the Yankees, and well, let's do this and that. And it just seemed like they were kind of bouncing around between a couple of different things. And then the last one was the Cincinnati Reds. They made a pretty big splash with Cabrian Hayes going to Cincinnati, and then they didn't really follow up on it, with all due respect to Miguel Andujar. But like, Hayes has a major contract, and I just feel like if you're going to do that, you got to now dive a little bit further in. If you make that declaration that we're going to go for it, then go for it, instead of, all right, we're going to go for it. Little bit. I didn't like that from the Reds. So those are the winners and losers of this trade Deadline. Just a reminder that you can get Couch Potato Diary wherever you get your podcasts, including on Spotify, as well as Apple, or anywhere else that you get your podcasts. And if you're listening in podcast form, we do stream these live. Just make sure you are following me on at Primetime Klein, basically wherever you are on social media. So now time to move into the National Football League as we get ready for the start of another season. And whenever I am getting ready for preview time, I think it's good for me and good for all of us to go back and look at what happened last year to make sure we learn lessons from the past. And so we will begin with how the Philadelphia Eagles built their championship roster. And the more you go through it, the more you realize that this really was a masterclass in team building by Philadelphia. Let's talk about it. The Philadelphia Eagles are the reigning and defending Super Bowl champions. So how did they do it? How did they build their championship roster? So let's run through. We're going to go through mainly the starters, kind of the bigger names on the team, and see how they were able to accumulate this excellent amount of talent. And I will just let you know now that the word draft was just copy and pasted at one point, because that is a lot of how they were able to do this. So we will begin with the quarterback. Jalen Hurts gets drafted in the second round in 2020. And I thought at the time it was okay. I mean, that's all right. It's a fine move. But I think it is obviously it's turned out to be very smart. They've gone to a couple of Super Bowls and won one. But you look at how some teams kind of handle the draft, and we've talked about it before, where teams really do tend to reach on quarterbacks in the draft, and then you see Jalen Hurts, it's a second-round pick, it's a bit of a flyer. You need to have the right system around him and everything like that, the right players around him, but it's a home run for them in the second round. The big one, obviously, Saquon Barkley. They sign him as a free agent before the 2024 season. That seemed to work out pretty well. Take him from a division rival, put him behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and off you go, and just kind of reinvigorating the running back market. At wide receiver, it's A.J. Brown. They acquire him from Tennessee for a 2022 first-round pick in Treylon Burks, and a 2022 third that was eventually traded in a move that saw the Titans move down in the NFL draft. Burks was recently released by the Tennessee Titans, so pretty good win here for the Eagles. Devonta Smith, their number 2 wide receiver, was drafted 10th overall in 2021. At tight end, it's Dallas Goedert. He was a second-round pick in 2018. Moving to the offensive line, Jordan Mailata, 7th-round pick in 2018. Landon Dickerson, 2nd-round pick in 2021. Cam Jurgens, 2nd-round pick in 2022. Mekhi Becton, now a Charger. He was a free agent signing before 2024. And Lane Johnson, a first-round pick, 4th overall in 2013. So you look at how they were able to build all of this, and we talked numerous times about building a foundation for a roster. Well, that in football is your offensive line, and it's draft, free agent, draft. They recognized what is important, and they nailed it with Mailata in the 7th, Dickerson in the 2nd, same with Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson, a first-round pick from over a decade ago. They set that foundation, they nailed those picks, and then they were able to branch out beyond it. You go and get Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round, and you're able to develop him, and now we have a real base, so now we can invest at the running back position and get the best that there is to go out there and put on a show for us, and then we can, all right, well, we don't need this pick anymore because we have this set. Let's go get A.J. Brown and really build a quality roster out of this. So it is setting that foundation through the draft. Now we have this. Now we get to go have the luxury items. Now we get to we've had our dinner. Now we get to have dessert by going out and getting Saquon Barkley. On the defensive side, Jordan Davis was a first-round pick in 2022. Jalen Carter was a first-round pick in 2023. Thomas Booker, recently traded to the Raiders, signed off of the Texans practice squad. At linebacker, Nolan Smith, first-round pick, 30th overall in 2023. Zach Bond was a free agent signing before 2024. Nakobe Dean, a third-round pick in 2022. And Josh Sweat, a fourth-round pick in 2018 in a pick that they acquired for Sam Bradford. At defensive back, it is Quinyon Mitchell, a first-round pick in 24. Cooper DeJean, a second-round pick in the most recent draft. Sorry, not the most, but the 2024, I guess. CJ Gardner-Johnson, free agent signing just before 2024, and Reed Blankenship, an undrafted free agent in 2022. And so looking at the defense and then just how they built this roster as a whole, it really is a masterclass in drafting and then hitting on your picks. Even like in the later part of the rounds, they have 3 guys who were picked in the top 10, or who they picked, sorry, in the top 10. Obviously, Saquon was a top 10 pick, but 3 guys who they picked in the top 10. Devonta Smith, 10th overall, Jalen Carter, 9th overall, and Lane Johnson, 4th overall. Other than that, you look at like Hurts, 53rd, Dallas Goedert, 49th, obviously Jordan Mailata at 233rd. But then you have a 51st overall pick, a 37th overall pick, 30th overall pick, 130th overall pick, 83rd overall, 40th overall. So these guys, they haven't had to do the tank thing to go out and get your big quarterback. They scouted, drafted, developed Jalen Hurts in a fantastic way. They nailed it on the offensive line. And all right, so we now have that set. Let's go out and just hammer our defense in this draft and build that up that way. So now you have what looks like a dynastic group on your defense, especially on the defensive line with Davis, Carter, obviously like Zach Bond as a linebacker. A couple guys are gone now. Josh Sweat leaving for the Arizona Cardinals, but they have. It's a masterclass in drafting. That's the best way I can say it, is they really set the foundation of this roster with the draft. They have developed incredibly well. And now, because of that, you can take a couple shots and see, all right, how do we work with not just the young guys who we have in the system, but also some of the kind of bigger names that we can go out and get. Saquon Barkley works well, obviously, but we have a hole on our offensive line. Let's give it a shot with Mekhi Becton. He had a pedigree coming out of the draft. It hasn't really worked. Hey, look at that. We turned him into something awesome. Same thing with Zach Bond. Just kind of pluck him out of obscurity, basically, and turn him into an all-pro linebacker. So it is every level of football that this team has mastered, where they set the foundation with the draft. They have a style that they are looking for, an identity from the way they have built this roster, and they have a developmental system that allows these guys to flourish and allows them now to take a few other shots with the roster. So this is basically, for me, a dream in how to construct an NFL team. And we always talk about, okay, well, what's the Philly model? It's a copycat league. How can we follow that up? Just draft awesome players and develop them into elite players. And that's all you have to do. Just have a very good player at like 24 positions and you'll be fine. Everything will be great. It'll be all good for you. It's just a wonderful, wonderful job of building this roster. And obviously a few pieces are gone now going into this year, but you look at this group and it's like, man, that is a darn near perfect roster that the Philadelphia Eagles have constructed. So that is how the champions were built from last season. So what did we do? How did we do? Always like to do the accountability episodes with the predictions. So let's go back a year and see what we can learn from what we got right and what we got wrong in our NFL preview. The NFL season is rapidly approaching, and sometimes things can move pretty fast in sports. It's good to just take a breath, look back to the past, and see what we can learn from our wins and our losses. So let's start with the teams that we thought were overvalued going into last year. Always do 5 of them. Last season, it was the 49ers, the Bills, the Jets, the Bears, and the Rams. I had the 49ers at overvalued at 11.5 wins. And that basically played out. It was red flag after red flag in the preseason. And at some point, it was just, okay, this season's probably not going to go well for them. And then it was a disaster as the year went on. So that one was the dub. I didn't like with Buffalo, A, the coach, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. B, I didn't love the thought that they'll just, Khalil Shakir, he'll be fine. Keontae, whatever, he'll be good. I had concerns about what they were doing at wide receiver with that team. Obviously, it didn't matter. The Bills were excellent again last season, and so I take the L on picking them under 10.5 wins. The Jets, I didn't buy the hype. It was specifically around Aaron Rodgers. I wish I would have not bought into it more, but that was still one of the more lucrative calls, was them to be under 9.5 and them to not make the playoffs. We locked that one up prettier. I don't even know if there was snow on the ground by the time we were able to lock that one in. The Chicago Bears, I had them overvalued at 9.5 wins. People were excited. I was saying, like, this is how you build around a young quarterback. We didn't look at the offensive line, though. Talked a bit before about the Philadelphia Eagles and the foundation they set. That foundation was not set with the Chicago Bears, and it was very apparent that it was a problem. And so that worked out really well for us on a pretty good pick there. And then I had the Rams under 8.5 wins. I just thought it's an aging group. Injuries are going to get to them. And while a couple injuries did, they were still able to survive and advance and get to 10 wins. And so that one was a loss. So on the overvalued teams, we went 3-2. But I felt pretty good about that. Overvalued players, as we talk fantasy football on this channel. Puka Nacua was ranked as wide receiver 8. I said that was too high, and it was. He finishes at wide receiver 33. Marvin Harrison Jr. was wide receiver 9. He ends up at wide receiver 26, so another win for us. At running back, Rachaad White was RB 13. I just didn't think there was a whole lot there for him. And again, right, as he finishes at RB 24. Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver 19 in the consensus rankings going into last year, finished at wide receiver 70. So we went 4 for 4. Can we go 5 for 5? No, because I thought Malik Neighbors was overvalued at wide receiver 23. And I was very, very wrong as he comes in at wide receiver 8. So looking at the players that everyone kind of was a little bit too high on, felt pretty good. Nailed that one a little bit. And teams that were people were too high on. All right, feeling good. So what about the teams that I was high on that were maybe undervalued a little bit? Didn't go as well. Undervalued. I thought the Packers were undervalued at 9.5 wins. Was right on that one. Made some adjustments on the defensive side. Jordan Love, another year of development and progression. Kinda. A lot of it was Josh Jacobs. But either way, we got the win there. Arizona, I thought they were a sneaky pick to win that division, and it was looking like it for a bit, and then just kind of leveled off. But we still got there over 6.5 wins. Tennessee Titans, I thought, you know what? Like, Will Levis, maybe not great at quarterback, but he's okay. And they have some veteran weapons around him. They've signed a bunch of veterans on the defensive side. This is going to be okay. And then it really wasn't. Will Levis was a disaster. A lot of guys got hurt, and a lot of the other guys on the defense just didn't care. And it became a real problem for them. So took the L on that one. Really right on Minnesota, that people were just writing them off with what they were doing. They were at 7.5 was the total. They had won 7 games the year before, and I thought they kind of got better. So gave me a big dub on that. And then Miami at 9.5, taking the L on that one. So I thought they were undervalued. I thought, hey, again, this is basically the same team from a year before. They lost a little bit in free agency, but I think they'll be okay. They were not. They were not okay. Undervalued players took a few L's on this one. Isaiah Pacheco, it was injuries, but I got the benefit of injuries on the overvalued one, so have to take the L on it in this one. I still think talent-wise, he's a very good running back. Deebo Samuel was an I can't quit you guy, and I find that starting to creep up with him in Washington. Oh, Terry McLaurin doesn't want to be there. All of a sudden, a few targets might be opening up for our boy Deebo. He was at wide receiver 13 last year. I thought, hey, this is one of the best talent, or the most talented wide receivers in football. Wide receiver 44. Jordan Love, I thought we were primed for a breakout out in Green Bay. Quarterback 9, too low. Not low enough. He was QB 17. Raheem Mostert, he was at RB 25. He finishes at RB 60. So that didn't go great. The one we did get right on this was Chase Brown. He was listed at RB 36, and we got that one right with the dub because he finishes at RB 12. So you win some, you lose some. That was the only part that we had the losing record on. And then quickly, coaches on the hot seat. Sean McDermott from Buffalo was our number 1, and he probably was, but they had a really good year. And then the other 4 all got fired. Robert Salah, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, and Dennis Allen. Mike McCarthy, a contract not renewed, but not there anymore either way. So overall, I think we did pretty well. So what lessons can we learn from that? Well, one, it's a whole lot easier to tell people what they're getting wrong instead of what you're going to get right. But I think when you look at the teams that were overvalued last year, it was the 49ers, injury problems, but those injury problems were apparent right away. And the Jets and the Bears, it was a lot of one the offseason, right? Like it was the Bears have Caleb Williams, a prospect that we're all really excited about, and then they give him weapons to throw to. It's DJ Moore, it's Keenan Allen. They draft Rome Odunze. Cole Kmet is still existing as a tight end. So they got a lot that you really like on this team. Forgot the offensive line part. And then with the New York Jets, it was basically the opposite, where, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, little old, probably not that great anymore. but you like a lot of the other stuff. One of the best rosters in football. This is great. But look at the coach, look at the quarterback. They failed it on those. So just overall, try to fight your way through a lot of the hype on a few of those. I would like for the overvalued and undervalued players. I don't know if there was a whole lot to learn from that. And what we got wrong on the undervalued, I think I would say didn't necessarily see all the problems with Tennessee, and just because you recognize the names doesn't mean they're good anymore. So that was a problem there. And then probably for Miami, I think I just had too much of a blinder on for what I thought that offense could be. They changed it up dramatically to try to keep Tua as healthy as possible, and it didn't really work. And they got annihilated in free agency going into that year, and I should have recognized that. So just kind of watching out for the off-season hype as you get ready for the season is always good reminder, and I think we had that there. So that is 4-Down Football. We'll have a lot more NFL coverage to come here on Couch Potato Diary as the weeks go ahead. Let's move to the 3-down variety now, as the Canadian Football League was back with another week. A couple pretty big surprises, and even the games that went the way we thought they did, or would, sorry, didn't really go the way we thought they would, if that makes sense. Let's dive in to some CFL talk. Always leave that a little bit too long, but I like it, so it's fine. Let's dive in with the Canadian Football League recap after week number 9. And we begin with a game that, back to the NFL accountability thing. I just got this one wrong. I thought Calgary's defense would be enough to limit what the Red Blacks were looking to do and be able to come up and control this game and make it at least close down the stretch. And I did not factor in that PJ Walker and the rest of this offense would not be very good at all. And that missed by me. As Ottawa, they were there to take advantage. And so good for them, because that is, look, it's a very good Calgary defense, and one that Ottawa got a lot of practice against because the Stamps were out on the field for a really long time in that game. But that's a bit of a concern, that you have to face that defense all that amount, because Calgary just couldn't stay on the field. You're probably noticing I was a little distracted there. I wanted to pull this up. It kind of struck me watching the game. It's like, man, feels like it's second in a bunch a lot. And so after the game, I ran through the play-by-play on the CFL website, and boy, did they have a week. So take this for what it's worth. But this is what the Stamps did on first down against the Ottawa Red Blacks. These are the yardage amounts they got in the first half on first down. 1, 4, 0, 2, 0, 2, 2, 5, 7, 0, -1, 7, 15. So wow, really lighting it up. For reference, in case you couldn't do the math that quickly, and I mean, what's wrong with you? It's 44 yards on 13 first downs. So 3.3 yard average there. In the second half, well, hey, look, we finished strong with half the yards on 2 plays. What did we get? This is what they did on first down. -1, 3, -1, 7, 0, 4, 2, 0, 1, 1, 5, 4, 29, 0, 0. So 54 yards on first downs, 15 first down plays that they had in the second half for 3.6 yards per play. So averaging it out, 3.5 yards per play on first down. So on average, they were stuck in either 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 7. When you're trying to make life easier on a quarterback who's never played in this league before, that is literally exactly the opposite of what you want to be doing with him. And so credit to Ottawa for shutting things down on first down, but the Stampeders, that needed to be a whole lot better to put their quarterback in a position to succeed. And they didn't do it. And so it's kind of funny when you are looking at how they kind of set all this up. They had 2 first downs on first down. So like, instead of needing second down to move the change, just, hey, look at that. We got 15 yards. Twice they did that. On second and fewer. So maybe this was part of the strategy, because on 2nd and 5 or fewer, it actually didn't go all that great. They didn't have a lot of opportunities, but on 2nd and 5 or fewer, it was interception, incomplete pass, a 2-yard run on 2nd and 3, and a 3-yard loss on 2nd and 3, and then a defensive pass interference, giving them a first down. So, on 2nd and 5 or less, they picked up a total of -1 yard, 0 for 1 passing with an interception, and 1 first down by way of penalty. Just a disaster all around for the Stampeders. I don't know how much is actionable off of this. Vernon Adams is expected to be back this week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but it was startling how bad that was from the Stamps. And no wonder they give up 30 to Ottawa if the defense is always on the field. Winnipeg taking on the Toronto Argonauts. The Bombers basically just survive this game. Obviously, Chris Strevler in the lineup, passing not necessarily an expertise of his, but they are still able to come away from this game with a win. Again, I think this one's a bit more about what Toronto's problems are than Winnipeg with this great whatever. Like, that's Strevler, it is a unique type of a quarterback, but that is not a game plan or a style that should give you that much of a problem for Toronto. And so I've said before, Arbuckle, it wouldn't be my choice to lead my team as a quarterback, but it is not the only problem out in Toronto. Saskatchewan beating up on the Montreal Alouettes 34-6. If you want more of my thoughts on this game, they are available at 3 Down Nation right now. But kind of Cole's notes for it. The main thing was how this team was able to win on the defensive line, only rushing 4. They were in McLeod Bethel-Thompson's face all game, and then Shane Ray with really the dagger driving MBT into the mat on third down to get what they thought would be a scoop and a score touchdown. Instead, it's just a sack and a turnover on downs. But they were all over McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and when you can get there with 4, that helps you to cover a very large field a little bit better. And it was a major, major problem for MBT as that defense really did kind of pound him all game long. And then offensively, I mean, again, they had the ball a ton. They had it for, I think it was like 33, 34 minutes in this game. They really controlled the clock. And the run game, it has slowed a little bit, but they were able to really kind of pick apart this defense through the air with Myers, Keyshawn Johnson. Both those guys stepped up in big time ways, and they were able to push the ball down the field a little bit as well. So they kind of just got to do whatever they wanted because they had the ball for so long. A big win for Saskatchewan. We'll talk about them in the power rankings coming up here in just a couple of moments. And then the last one, Hamilton outlasting Edmonton. Bit of a concern that Hamilton needed to outlast Edmonton in that game, but still, win is a win. They can move on and now gaining some ground on the Montreal Alouettes for that top spot in the CFL's East Division. So those are the results. How does everyone stack up after Week 9 in the CFL? Well, I'll tell you with today's CFL Power Rankings. CFL Power Rankings time for week number 10. We will start at the bottom and work our way up. Coming in at number 9, it's the Edmonton Elks. I had been saying for a bit that Ottawa was actually the worst team in the league, but win's a win. Doesn't matter who it was against, quarterback-wise. It's a big win for Ottawa. So they get out of the basement and move into the number 9 spot. Moving to number 8 spot with Edmonton dropping down to number 9. Ottawa moving up to number 8, and probably the less said the better on both of those teams. At 7, it's the Toronto Argonauts. Like I said in the breakdown, I just think their problems are bigger than, our quarterback's not awesome. There are some bigger concerns that fans out in Toronto should have about the defense and the rest of this offense, because there are just way too many bad plays, way too many bad games for this team to just think that the quarterback's going to come in and fix everything. At 6, it's the BC Lions. I remain perplexed by this football team. I still think there is a bunch of talent there. They just haven't been able to make it work yet. And unfortunately, not a lot of that talent lives on the offensive line, which is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. At 5, it is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They get a win. and so I believe they're dropping down from where I had them last week, but still, you have to be concerned about the injury issues that they have, and you have to wonder that if they were playing someone other than Toronto, does that game go as well for them last week? Moving into the top half at 4, the Calgary Stampeders. Yes, Vernon Adams was injured. Yes, they at one point were the hottest team in the CFL, but as mentioned before in the breakdown, that was ugly, especially on the offensive side. So that's why they come down at number 4. At 3, it's the Montreal Alouettes. A nice big boost coming off of the win over Calgary a week ago, and they come crashing down to earth as they got their lunch money stolen by Saskatchewan in that game. At 2, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. A little bit concerned about the degree of difficulty for that win over Edmonton, but still, this offense is as dangerous as it comes in the Canadian Football League, and the defense is getting better. But at number 1, it's the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and they showed this week why I get so frustrated when they don't put efforts out there like this, because when they play like that, they can beat anybody. As example, they beat the team that we had at number 1 in the power rankings last week. They have the talent and everything to be the most complete team in the CFL. So it's frustrating when they don't look like it against Edmonton, but it's awesome when they do look like it against Montreal. And they have a tough schedule coming up leading into their matchup with Winnipeg at Labor Day. But for right now, they look like the best team in the Canadian Football League. So those are the CFL Power Rankings. Let me know your disagreements in the chat, whether I went 9 for 9 or whatever your thoughts were. Let me know in the chat. Let's move now to the world of professional wrestling. Yesterday we broke down the controversy and why I hated Brock Lesnar coming out and being a part of WWE again. That video available now wherever you're consuming this. That's there. Today I think we have to highlight the performances that were overshadowed, and it's unfortunate that they were, because I think there was a lot of really good performances on SummerSlam from night 1 and night 2. Let's start with our breakdown of SummerSlam night 1. WWE SummerSlam got headlines for a lot of the wrong reasons, but some excellent performances as well. Let's break it down, starting with night 1. The show starts with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. I thought this match was good. You have about an hour and a half of entrances, but after that, the crowd was really into all 4 here. Braun Breaker looks like an absolute star with everything that he does, and that is the takeaway every single week that we do one of these, but it's the truth. This guy looked like a real legitimate badass out there. And Bronson Reed, these two just play off each other very effectively. And I think both of these guys have world champion written all over them. They kind of get some retribution after losing this match, because it is Roman and Jey getting the win. I did like how well Jey and Roman played off of each other as a tag team, and just really kind of solidifying Roman's not this selfish guy anymore. These two can get along, and everything is going to be fine with them. So that there is no more hints of anything. It is just Roman and Jey are getting along, and everything is good. So I liked that part. Speaking of tag teams getting along, it was Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss winning the women's tag team titles from the Judgment Day. I like this tag team a lot, of Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. The tag team division, I think, needing a bit of a spark. We touched on it a little bit on the live stream yesterday that turned into a Q&A. I thought that Judgment Day keeping the titles would be good for a Liv Morgan return, but you have something in this Charlotte Flair run right now, and the audience finally recognizing that they've been maybe a little hard on her in the past. And Alexa Bliss is kind of the perfect one to tie in with all of that. So I think they're a fun tag team. I think it breathes some life into this tag team division. It's great to have them on Raw now as well. It's a really exciting group, and I think from a match quality standpoint, it was fine. Roxy Perez continues to show that she's awesome, and Raquel Rodriguez is getting better and better in this role, and really, you can start to see that she's kind of figured out what her character is and what it's kind of supposed to be. Just a reminder, we're trying to grow this thing. So while you're watching it, like, your mouse probably not that far away from the share button. Just click on that and send it to a couple of your friends and a couple of people you don't like, just to throw him off a little bit. Sami Zayn against Karrion Kross. This one a bit more heavy on the story, where Karrion Kross wants Sami Zayn to admit that he's a bad guy and that Karrion Kross didn't lie. And Sami Zayn has the opportunity to go to the dark side and use a metal pole thing against, I don't know why I'm blanking on what it's actually called, but against this dastardly Karrion Kross, and he doesn't do it. And so thus good is saved with Sami Zayn getting the win. It is funny that well, no, I couldn't possibly use that weapon. I did attempt to murder Kevin Owens multiple times in a match with him a few months ago, but this would have been a step too far. So sometimes I feel like that is one of the overplayed things in pro wrestling, the babyface who can't possibly. Like, we have the entire story of the championship match for night 2, kind of based around Cody wasn't gonna nail Cena in the head with a belt last time because he was too good for that. And so now you're doing it here just on a lesser scale. I feel like it's overdone a little bit. I understand Karrion Kross has a ton of momentum with fans and everything like that, but this feud did nothing for me. It felt very much like a bit of a detour for Sami Zayn, just a bit of a keep busy thing. Reports are that Karrion Kross's contract has not been renewed. After how this weekend played out, I'm kind of wondering if there's a bit of a work going on with that to keep building up Kross as this kind of internet darling, and then he comes out as a surprise one day to attack somebody and build something there. So I'm not necessarily going to believe that one until we get the Karrion Kross is all elite graphic, but overall this match was okay, and I'm happy that this feud is no longer a thing. Tiffany Stratton against Jade Cargill. We talked about this a little bit yesterday in the Q&A. A little surprised they went this direction with Jade building up to the championship, and I thought, all right, she's the star, she's going to get this one, but maybe not ready for it. And I don't know if I disagree with that. In ring, there's still a little bit of work to go. And obviously, like, Tiffany has some work to go as well. And this character really needs to be refined. Because I have not been overly enthused with a whole lot on this particular run. So this, I think, was the right call. It was a call that surprised me. The match itself was fine. Like, they worked within their limitations very effectively. But yeah, the match was okay. Just not an absolute blowaway, anything that you're falling in love with. But if you're going to go with Stratton, really go with her now. And really make her a face of that division. And try to figure out what kind of character she really is. Because it's not clicking so far. Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul against Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Maybe a bit more Jelly Roll than we were expecting in this match, but again, crowd ate it up. I think the right guys win with Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. I see some criticism online that, oh, well, the bar's a little bit higher now for celebrity wrestlers because of McAfee and Logan Paul and all of that. And it's like, okay, but I feel like expecting Jelly Roll to live up to the Logan Paul standards and the Pat McAfee standards would be like asking Drew McIntyre to go out and just, do what Ricochet does. Go do what the cruiserweights do. Go, like you saw Cruz del Toro doing that thing. Well, the bar's raised now. Why is Drew McIntyre not doing that? I understand, like, wrestlers fall into different categories with luchadors, big men, all these types of things, and celebrities are just celebrities. But Jelly Roll was not going to do any of the stuff that Logan Paul would do. And maybe some of the stuff he did do wasn't perfect, but I thought it was fine for what it was. I did not look at it as critically as a lot of people did. And then we get to the main event, CM Punk taking on Gunther. They go 30 minutes, and this match was excellent. I did wonder if they maybe waited a little bit too long to really build into this match, but once it got going, holy hell, did these two really put on a fantastic performance. Gunther gets bloodied up. He's going to be out for a little bit now, and CM Punk ends up getting his big-time win with the GTS and the victory. And then the show goes off the air, and we all go home. Or not, because Seth Rollins comes out and cashes in Money in the Bank. They kind of dupe everyone where, oh, he's sending a message. It's my game, mind games. And then he drops the crutches, runs down to the ring, and ends up beating CM Punk in 11 seconds to become the World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of discussion online. I will admit, I bit initially. I remember I was on radio out here in Calgary when the injury happened, and I was like, and people were saying, oh, it's a work, and it's all gonna lead to this cash-in at SummerSlam. It's like, man, like, not everything's a work, and eventually you keep yelling work, you'll be right, and you nailed it on this one. But I I didn't think it was. I thought it was legitimate. And so they got me on that. This was cool. It was a fantastic cash in. It sets up everything now with Rollins and all of them perfectly. It ties in with this group very, very effectively. Some of the reaction online has caught me a bit. And this is where I feel like sometimes us in the media, and I'm not saying like a YouTube or whatever, but like I working in sports media here in Calgary for a while now, I feel like us in the media sometimes can get a little high horsey about certain things. And I saw this reaction to the Seth Rollins thing, and it's like, it is very clear that the WWE worked everyone, including the boys in the locker room. And I just think that sets a dangerous precedent when you're lying to your employees about all this. It's like, man, you're just pissed you got caught. You're not caught, but you're just pissed you got, I guess. You know, like, I feel like there are times in wrestling where, oh, that heel, no, he's got go away heat. Anytime he's on, like, I hope he loses every match. I can't stand that guy. Sounds like he's doing his job, and you're just trying to use go away heat as a way to still say, no, I'm still smarter. I just don't like watching him wrestle. That's it. I have not been into this character. I'm smarter than that. I couldn't have possibly done that. Instead of, just, yeah, I'm along for the ride, man, and it's fun. And I do think sometimes in media, it's like, well, this guy was not made available to discuss things with us after. This is a travesty. We can overreact sometimes when, now, I don't think it's awesome to use the media too often. In wrestling, I think it's fine. In sports, mileage may vary. But in wrestling, it's fine. This sort of thing, I'm not deeply offended by them duping like Mike Johnston and Sean Ross Sapp or any of those guys. And I'm not saying like they're bad reporters or anything like that, but just, and I'm not even saying Sean overreacted to anything, but I did see some reporters who were just kind of pearl clutching when really at the end of the day, you got lied to and got on this one. So I don't think it was that big of a deal, but I thought it was kind of funny. Some of the reactions coming off of that. So that is night one and what I thought of this show. What about night two? We'll get to that in a second, but I think it's pretty obvious by now. This is an ever-changing world, Couch Potato Diary. So stay up to date with everything that is happening around these parts by following me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. So that was night one. What about night two? Again, we have discussed the controversy and how much I hated how it ended, but there was a lot between the start and finish of SummerSlam Night 2, and a lot of good that was in there. So let's break it all down with another wrestling recap. So, the WWE with a second night of SummerSlam. Looking like things are maybe a little laggy again. So sorry if there's a bit of a offness about the audio and video that we are rocking with at this particular moment. So let's dive in now with our SummerSlam recap here for night two. We begin with the Women's Championship as it is Naomi against Io Sky against Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. I thought this was great. I thought Naomi getting played out by her dad was an amazing touch. I think they did a great job with that. And then the match again, it was fun. Io and Rhea really do have an amazing chemistry together. And so I am excited to see where they kind of go now outside of the championship picture. And Naomi deserves this win. This is an excellent character. And I think she has really, like we talk about Tiffany Stratton kind of needing to figure out what her voice is, figure out what this character is. Look at Naomi as a prime example. Naomi is living this character on television and really has this thing down to knowing how she would react in every moment and portraying it perfectly. So I'm happy for her that she gets the win here, and said it on the Q&A we did yesterday. This feels like the most interesting division in WWE right now with the like Io, Rhea, you're adding Stephanie Vaquer to the mix and having Naomi, like the top of this championship kind of division is really, really strong on the Monday Night Raw side. The TLC match for the tag team championships. I like that they gave Jeff Hardy the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys a bit of rub going before with a nice little touch. I thought that was really cool. As the match gets going, I had just explained to my wife, like, because she went to the show with me in Calgary, and the Wyatt Six were featured rather prominently, especially at the beginning of that. And so I was like, well, they haven't really been around a whole lot, and then they came back, and then they had a couple matches where a lot went wrong, and they still won the titles because that was the plan. But it's been a little sloppy since they've come back. And then the first move of the match, basically, is a back body drop, and Joe Gacy's supposed to go on the ladder, and he missed every bit of it. And so they run back outside, bring him back in, and back body drop him on there again. But aside from that, this match was just brilliant. You have Rey Fenix going up and almost getting the belts when he jumps up on Andrade's shoulders. But that obviously gets broken up. And then you get the series of table spots with Gargano hitting a springboard DDT onto Gacy through the table, and then Dexter Lumis with what was supposed to be a leg drop that turns into basically a senton going through, I think it was Montez Ford. You have Rey Fenix with the frog splash going through Nathan Frazier, and then Axiom with the Spanish fly on Dawkins. I thought that, like, the whole sequence was awesome. Everyone is down. Candice LeRae comes running out. She's going to go for the belts. She gets cut off by B-Fab. B-Fab gets cut off by Nikki Cross, and you just kind of think, it's done. Like, we had the women involvement, and it was like, oh, wow. Okay, we move on. But then Candice LeRae starts climbing again, and the ladder is just a bit too far out of reach, and she's going for it, and she's going for it. Johnny Gargano is holding the ladder, but Ciampa gets pushed into Gargano, who's pushed into the ladder, which sends Candice LeRae all the way to the outside and through a ladder that is set up on the floor. I had to pause it because I was just making just sounds. I could, jaw dropped, unbelievable moment. Just no part of it did I see coming, and they did an awesome job with that one. Hopefully she's all right. And then the reaction after, like, everyone reacted amazingly. With, like, Cole and Wade Barrett are like, oh my god. Montez Ford has the biggest, like, oh shit moment, and Johnny Gargano's like, yeah, you're good, and goes after the belts. Like, just everyone played the role that they were supposed to perfectly. Excellent work all around. You get a bit more of the Wyatts kind of cutting everyone off. Frazier goes for the spear moment where Ciampa is kind of hanging on the belts and the ladder gets pulled away. Frazier goes for the spear. Ciampa pulls himself up and Frazier misses. I thought a really unique counter to a spot that everyone was kind of anticipating, because you could see, like, the entire audience like, oh my god. And then Ciampa with the core strength to pull himself up. I thought that was really great, what they were able to do there. You get a few more big moves, and then eventually Uncle Howdy comes in and helps out, and it is the Wyatt Six retaining. This match was awesome. All the performers in this, aside from the Wyatts, I think come out looking a lot stronger than they did going into this one. The Wyatt stuff, it's going to need to really ramp up, because right now they're just heels. There's nothing different about them or anything like that. They are just heels who haven't really been around a whole lot to get us invested, and haven't really even told us why they're heels. They justified it on the broadcast just by saying, yeah, remember when they sent us creepy VHS tapes for a bit, and then we liked them for a while, and now we don't. But forget the like them for a while part. That whole Chad Gable thing, don't even worry about it. It's not clicking for me, and I don't think turning them into House of Torture is the way to go about it either. So, meh on the team that won, but everyone else comes out of this smelling like roses. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, a tough act to follow for them, to have a weapons match after just a dynamite weapons match. And so again, this one a little bit more on the story, at least early on. But first, Becky comes out to a new theme. I like it a lot. I don't know if the theme necessarily meshes with the character, but I do also think that it was time for her to have a different theme than the one she had when she was the last kicker all those moons ago. Some really fun spots, I thought. Throwing Lyra into the barricade. She jumps up, springboards off of it, and lands on Becky that way. The stuff with the zip ties and the kind of assault with the kendo stick. Becky lodges the chair onto Lyra. I thought they were doing a really good job of putting this match together. The Bayley interference ties in with a bigger story down the road, so that was that. I really thought that this was a moment to put Lyra Valkyria over and give her kind of that big boost. And I'm almost becoming a little protective of her as a character, because there's a little bit that's lacking with crowd reactions right now. And in ring, you can see it. Like, this match was awesome, but character-wise, it's getting there, and we're getting close. I feel like they went the exact wrong way on the Go Home show for this. And so I'm interested to see what they do now with this character. You had a bit of a backstage thing, and that was it. I feel like, again, this is a world champion at someday, but they need to get more investment in her, and right now that isn't there. So interesting dynamic to see where they go now with the title not being within her grasp. Certainly looks like they're obviously setting something up with Bayley, who came in with the interference finish, accidentally hitting her. Jacob Fatu against Solo Sikoa. I thought the video to set this up was very well done. As for the match itself, I thought that it had another gear that it could have got to. And it just never, before all the interference and stuff started to happen. And then again, I thought this was a big moment to get Jacob Fatu back over and maybe kind of separate from the bloodline stuff a little bit more. That obviously is not the case, as Solo Sikoa wins. And so there have been a lot of criticisms of Triple H booking over the last 48 hours or so. One thing, when it comes to specifically bloodline storylines, but a few of these in general, it does feel like the exit strategy on kind of the big long-term build-up things isn't really there, and it's just, well, it's long-term. It's like, there's a difference between long-term and it just being long. And I think we're at a, this is just being long portion now. Could be wrong, but it felt like this was the time to just, let's get Jacob the win, and let's move on from this thing, instead of still being locked in this vortex for as long as we have been. One other note, Tongaloa and JC Mateo get locked in the cage after, and Jacob Fatu just whoops that ass. And I hated that part, specifically for JC Mateo to come over after just, like, he has had amazing performances in AEW and in New Japan. And, like, there is a very talented wrestler in there. And now he is just a part of the job squad, basically. To think so little of him that Jimmy would beat him up a little bit and then throw him into the ring and lock him in there with a teammate of his and just be like, oh yeah, Jacob Fatu's got this, does not speak highly of where JC Mateo is right now. So that is one that has been absolutely screwed up by WWE to this point. Dominic Mysterio against AJ Styles. First, we get Mr. Iguana and Psycho Clown shown in the crowd. This one was fun. A lot of Eddie tributes. 20 years ago, it was the infamous ladder match for custody of Dominic Mysterio. And so you have a lot of Eddie throwbacks here. And a good match. Like Dominic, we said a while ago when they put the Intercontinental title on him, like for a while, he was just kind of Ray's kid and a pretty good gimmick. But the wrestling is really starting to come. And obviously the character is very well refined, very well figured out. This is really clicking now. And you see the reaction he got in Mexico. I think it's going to be very fascinating to see how all of that plays out at Triple Mania in a couple of weeks. And like, given that reaction, man, you could convince me that he's the AAA Grand Champion or Mega Champion, sorry, in a couple of weeks. Because that was a huge reaction. And this guy's starting to figure some things out. I know there will be some that would protest the Intercontinental Champion in WWE being the world champion of one of Mexico's biggest promotions. But there's a lot going on with this kid right now. And so I thought the match with AJ was really, really good. Then we get to the main event. It's Cody Rhodes against John Cena for the WWE Championship. This match, like, it was both guys hitting finishers and kicking out of finishers. The match was just indescribably better than the WrestleMania one. There's no question about that. And the no-holds-barred stipulation really did work. And I criticized the Cena babyface turn the other day. And again, Ryan in the chat saying that Triple H and Creative messed up the Cena face turn. I would agree. I think to have it happen with one, hey, I'm good now, promo on SmackDown sucked. And I hated every bit of that. And maybe there was a bit of a recognition that this crowd's not gonna go with you guys there. But you could have done it, like you said, after the SummerSlam loss. You could have kind of your Hogan Rock moment there at WrestleMania where the crowd has turned both guys. And so coming out of it, Cena's like, I thought you guys abandoned me. I all these different things, but that support on Sunday really changed me. And so I'm back with you guys. And Cody's like, hey, all of you, eat shit. I think there was a way you could do that there instead of kind of the subtle turn, but not really turn, but definitely a turn on Friday leading into this match. So didn't love all the way around it, but the match was good. Like, it's a lot of big moments and a lot of big moves and a lot of big kickouts, and the crowd was there for every second of it. And eventually Cody gets the win. It's the right move to get Cody that victory, get it back on the face of the company. A really good passing of the torch moment at the end where you can see Cena obviously mouth, I gave you everything I had. I thought that was a cool moment with those two guys. Cody obviously emotional in the ring after, so we'll see what kind of comes of this afterward and the follow-up with Cody, but I thought this was great. And then the end happens with Brock Lesnar coming out and attacking John Cena. Again, I hate that Brock Lesnar is back with everything that is alleged in the suit against Vince McMahon and all of those things. I hate that part of it. And also, I just am not entertained by Brock Lesnar wrestling matches anymore. I'm just not. Wasn't then, certainly not going to be now. So I don't think that this was something that needed to happen from a wrestling standpoint or from just an actual human being standpoint. Kind of hated all of it. So that is the SummerSlam recap. How did they follow it up on Monday Night Raw? Let's talk about it. After SummerSlam, the WWE now on the road to Paris as we get ready for the Clash out there in a couple of weeks. And so how would we follow up things on SummerSlam and build toward that? Not a ton of build specifically for that, or much announced anyway, but setting a few things in place anyway. Obviously, the big thing is the angle at the end of the night. I love that for some reason Bronson Reed's gimmick is stealing Roman Reigns' shoes. The tribal thief and the shoe La Fala are really funny to me, and I think they nailed it with those. So that was funny. But the beatdown, like, again, it was another one of those where a couple of times you thought the show was done, where like Heyman's yelling Hogan must pose with Seth Rollins with the belt, and then Roman Reigns' music hits, and then it feels like, all right, Roman and them have got this, and oh my god, it's a spear, and okay, well, it's a beatdown, and now we're gonna go, oh no, it's a tsunami. Like they set this up very well. And again, you are setting up this group, the Vision is what we're apparently calling them now. You set this group up as the dominant force on Raw with this. And again, really establishing a few different feuds you can go with as LA Knight comes in, kind of stumbles on the promo at the end, setting things up with Rollins, but a good one, and nice to see him in the championship picture kind of for the first time. So I'm hoping that he is not kind of forgotten in the CM Punk, Roman Reigns, everything that's going on with these guys thing, but it establishes your heel group. CM Punk obviously needed to come out and attack Rollins. It sets something up with him and LA Knight as well. Like, a lot can come out of just this one moment here. So I thought it was really well done. Overall, I thought the show was pretty good on Raw. There wasn't a whole lot that was like, really? Okay. I thought things kind of moved pretty well. Obviously, the other big moment, Becky and Nikki with the promo battle, and Becky Lynch with the "you can't see him anymore" thing that just lit that entire crowd up, and is a clip that I have been sent in text messages from non-wrestling fans. So like, man, that is, whew, that's a shot there. So a very good job of setting that up, I thought, with Becky and Nikki, and so now you can kind of understand Lyra Valkyria not winning the championship because Nikki is going to be going after the IC title. It kind of feels like you can justify Nikki kind of pushing for it. It's not like she just hasn't been on TV in the last little while. She's been out winning tag matches and everything like that. And she can say, look, I didn't have a chance to win this belt when I was doing it the first time. So let's go and get it. I think that this could be a very entertaining feud that they are putting together. I loved the Sheamus Rusev hockey fight that lasted 2.5 hours. I think, like, at some points it was comedic, but it really did get over how much these guys hate each other, and I think it is obviously going to set up some kind of a big brawl match at some point. But then you kind of lump Sami Zayn into it by getting brawled on in the middle of an interview, and now you set up a match for next week. So I thought that was a well done aspect of the show. The 3 Grande Americanos, I said before that nothing really made me roll my eyes. That was a thing. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this thing. But Dom and Dragon Lee, like, anytime the LWO gets any kind of TV time, I am here for it. I think all 3 guys in the group right now are very entertaining, and they just need a bit more of a spotlight than what they are getting. And so Dragon Lee able to put on a show, Dominic Mysterio able to put on what was a pretty entertaining performance as well. But I think you're set up pretty well now going into this next quarter of WWE on the Raw side anyway. We will see what happens with all the grossness over on SmackDown. But on Raw, you have the title picture with Seth and a few of those guys. Tag team titles, that I think needs to be worked out a little bit more. We're getting the New Day on television a lot, but we're back with the Judgment Day having the titles and just not defending them that much. So that's a division that I think needs to be kind of sorted out a little bit. But IC title with Dom is in a good spot right now. Women's tag team titles, fun to have Charlotte Flair on Raw, and we talked about the women's title picture before. So a lot is set in place now moving forward with a lot of very exciting stories with Monday Night Raw. All right, that's going to do it. Hopefully that the technical issues weren't too bad for everyone today. But thank you so much for hanging out. Probably the last live stream of the week. This week gets very busy for me very quickly. So if anything big happens, I'll try to jump on here. Follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein, wherever you are socially on the media. Shout out to Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca. Look how good that Cannon's hat looks. So go check that out right now. And Swift Energy. Head over to swiftenergy.gg. They got some awesome flavors to provide you with the fuel for your next gaming session. We'll be back sometime. Talk to you guys later. Bye.